What's going on, everybody? It's Rob here with RD Tech, bringing you yet another video. Here I am playing some Battlefield 1 Conquest. Now, I was going to do this over the Wildlands open beta gameplay, but that kept crashing on me. I mean, what do you really expect from Ubisoft? Anyways, today I have an exciting announcement. In the coming weeks, I'll be bringing you a build guide featuring an AMD Ryzen 1800X or 1700X. I haven't quite decided between the two yet, not to mention the $100 price delta is also weighing on my mind. Now, if I was solely a tech content consumer and was not an aspiring content creator, I would most definitely wait for third-party reviews before I bought any brand new bit of hardware. That is definitely what I would advise many of you to do before you buy as well. Don't jump the gun like I am doing unless you're willing to deal with some day one release issues that are sure to be around, especially when your own money is involved. Now, considering that you will need at least a new motherboard and in addition to the CPU, that is a sizable chunk of change to throw down on any new product. In my mind, it's exactly like software pre-orders. While I'm not saying AMD will pull a no man's sky, it is possible that it won't live up to your expectations. As I mentioned before, I'm not entirely sure which Ryzen processor I'm going to go with for my editing ring as of yet. Since all the chips in the R7 lineup are 8 cores, 16 threads, and utilize AMD's SMT or simultaneous multi-threading technology, have 24 PCIe lanes, and are all using AMD's extended frequency range or XFR. The main differences between the three come down to clock speed, TDP, and of course price. The 1700 comes in at $329 at a clock speed of 3.0 to 3.7 gigahertz with a relatively low TDP of 65 watts. The middle child in this lineup, the 1700X, coming in at $399 US with a clock speed of 3.4 to 3.8 gigahertz and a TDP of 95 watts. Now that brings us to the 1800X, which is priced at $499 US at a clock speed of 3.6 to 4.0 gigahertz with a TDP of 95 watts as well. These clock speeds are not indicative of the overclocking capabilities any of these chips will have, as all the benchmarks AMD has released have been conducted at stock speeds against Core i7s also at stock speed. However, it is safe to assume that the 1700X will be able to overclock better than the 1700 and so on and so forth. In regards to overclocking, a Digital Trends article has made mention of an 1800X being overclocked to 5.2 gigahertz with all 8 cores active. Don't get too excited just yet because this wasn't accomplished using any traditional cooling means. This was done using LN2 with a whopping core voltage of 1.875 volts. The benchmarks AMD has released so far are the only reliable source of knowledge we have at the moment in terms of how these processors actually stack up against Intel's lineup. Of course, I'll be doing my own comparison, but by the time I get my hands on the chip, other YouTubers and sources will already have their benchmarks published. Nevertheless, in the Cinebench R15 multi-threaded performance test, the R7 lineup was pitted against Intel's 6900K, which retails for $1,089 US, and Intel's Kaby Lake 7700K. The 6900K came in with a score of 1542, and the 1800X beat out the 6900K with a score of 1601, while the $399 1700X is just barely edged out by the 6900K with a score of 1537. That's not too bad at all, especially when you consider the 1700X is about $600 less. The 7700K had a score of 963, and that was beat out by the 1700, which had a score of 1410. Now I know what you're saying. Rob, what about the gaming? Why would I care about how well it performs in multi-threaded applications when I don't make videos or stream? Well, AMD has you covered there as well. At their release event they hosted recently in San Francisco, AMD had a Battlefield 1 demo featuring a 6800K pitted against a 1700. Both systems were equipped with dual Titan XPs and SLI to play at 4K. The Intel system had 32 gigabytes of RAM and the AMD system had 16 gigabytes of RAM. That was pretty much the only discernible difference between the two systems. The 6800K averaged 85 FPS, whereas the 1700 averaged 92 FPS. Remember what I said about potential day one release issues? Yeah, apparently one is already out there. On the Overclockers UK forum, they mentioned that Ryzen is having some compatibility issues with RAM above 2666 MHz, and that RAM at 3000 MHz and above will only work at those frequencies in flagship motherboards such as the Asus Crosshair. Now that's a $250 motherboard. That's expensive. This isn't to try and dissuade you from purchasing these processors, but I'd rather you have all the information before you make a decision. With this Ryzen CPU that I will soon have in my possession, I will be taking some of my existing hardware, like my Gigabyte G1 Gaming GTX 1080, my Crucial MX300 750GB SSD, thank you Black Friday, my 3TB Seagate storage drive, my EVGA G2 750W power supply, and combining it with a new CPU, motherboard, RAM, and case in order to create a monstrous video editing and gaming beast. Alright, well, it may not be too monstrous, but it'll certainly beat out my 6600K. That's not to say that the 6600K's days of use are over. Oh, no, 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 no. On the contrary, I will be using that in addition to some hardware I have around the house to assemble a gaming rig for my wife. Don't worry, I will be doing build logs and benchmarks on both of these PCs as soon as I have all the hardware. I may even do a little case modding on my wife's PC. Guess we'll just have to wait and see if that's in the works or not. If you're curious to see what my planned Ryzen build will cost brand new, or want to see what my current setup is like, I put both of those PC part picker links down in the description. Alright ladies and gentlemen, that wraps up this video. I hope you liked it. Feel free to give me a like, subscribe, comment. It doesn't matter to me, it all helps out. I've been Rob, and I look forward to bringing you more Ryzen content in the future.